What's up, internet fam? So I am driving right now with my friend Roz. Roz, say
Hi,
what's
you guys.
up.
Hello, internet family.
So Roz is a good friend of mine and a guitar student of mine, although not a very good guitar
Not
student.
very dedicated.
Not a very dedicated guitar student, to be frank about it.
Let's just be realistic. I'm the next door neighbor.
But you have had a couple of
No, I'm your
brief
guitar
lessons.
student, but
Yeah.
I'm.
This is a profession. I'm trying to promote my professional guitar teaching skills here.
Well,
So anyway, we decided today, because I've got court next week, and I don't really understand the legal processes, the courtroom, anything about any of it. So I decided that I would go ahead and head down to the courthouse and watch some other divorce and custody trials unfold and try to make some kind of determinations based on other people's experience there. And so we were just sitting in the courtroom watching other people's trials for like what?
shit. Sorry, that was me.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. No, we're
Trying to get Rye in the picture. I will not touch the phone
don't worry about the
again.
perfect picture. It's
Okay.
mainly about the audio.
Okay.
So we were down there for 2 hours trying to watch other people, and then I figured we'd just live stream and kind of unpack about what we discovered, what we saw. So what are your first thoughts? Initial just...
Okay, sheer terror. I want you to know that I have had my experiences in that same court. Upsetting. I felt very frightened when I was in there. Didn't know anything about law. Didn't know what was going on in my divorce. So I thought, okay, I want to go out there with Rye, and we're just gonna observe. We're gonna have a look and see what goes on.
For you, there was another aspect of it too, because you're talking about one of the things that we've noticed, both of us, because you're divorced too, right? And I'm divorced, and one of the things that we noticed is that there's an entire industry based around divorce. There's all these services that people will...
Niche market, boutique industry. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not even that boutique. It's a massive industry. I call it the divorce industrial complex because it's so prevalent, especially here in Southern California.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And there's so many ways to make money at this. So you're researching that a little bit, right? And
Absolutely.
And then also, I mean, for you, maybe is there a little bit of like facing your fear too? Is that the thing you were thinking of, or?
Well, it's three things. Honestly, for me, it's facing my fears because that place terrified me.
Right.
It really scared me. I'd never been in trouble. I had never had any reason to be in a court. And here I'm in the court and I have this false restraining order against me, and it was very, very, very intimidating. I'm a bright woman. I'm educated. I don't want to be intimidated by anything. So I wanted to go out there, A, to face my fears, B, to research for this potential business I would like to open to help people who are going through the same experience that you are going through, that I've gone through. So many people I know have gone through.
All of our friends. All of our friends.
Like it's a thing here in California.
It's very telling to me. To me it's a huge condemnation of like our entire society. The fact that so many people are divorced, how they get divorced, why they get divorced, what the divorce actually ends up looking like, the whole process. To me, it's a huge condemnation of our entire way of life, like our whole civilization.
Okay, I agree. However,
I mean, you know,
that's another live stream.
Yeah, it is. But so and then what was your third reason for going?
Well, my third reason is because we have this coming up in the 23rd. We're all going to have to go, and I want to know what goes on. I mean, I know what happens in my case.
Yeah.
I don't know what goes on, so to speak, in these courtrooms, and I thought it would be interesting for us to go and just observe and see what happens to other people. And I am now more terrified than I've ever been.
It's really, it was so ridiculous. So you have the notepad, right?
Okay, let me just, first of all, the one attorney showed up and there was no indication. When you go to court, you go to the department that you need to go to, so you find that door, and then you look on the wall, and it lists all the different families. So, you know, like whatever name versus whatever last name, okay? Yeah. That's what's happening, that's the list.
Johnson versus Smith, whatever.
Yeah, this attorney walked up and they were not listed, although in his court documents he was supposed to be there. So that was the first thing that seemed like, it's very odd. The next thing I saw was that the judge had a totally different set of paperwork from the poor guy who, you know, is just like getting everything taken away from him. This is his 1 minute, and probably waiting for month after month after month to even have the opportunity to speak in front of the judge, and the judge doesn't even have his paperwork.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was interesting.
Okay.
That was my biggest takeaway from today is
Whoa.
it's just complete and total chaos.
It's a shit show.
It's a complete and well, this is we're live
Oh,
streaming.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's a S show for sure, though.
It's
I
an
completely
S
agree.
show.
I
It's
completely-
scary.
I completely agree with what you said. It's the court system is just like this meat grinder where, you know, people have already really screwed up to even get to that point. And that's interesting too. We met, there was a couple in there at one point trying to figure out, you know, she's trying to get a move away order to Colorado. He's concerned because he doesn't get to see his kids now, and that means he's going to get to see his kids even less or lower his chances for getting to see his kids. Very different situation, I think, than either of ours because A, they'd been in the court system for 7 years, and B, they had teenagers now, and so the judge repeatedly was pointing out, like, listen, your kids are teenagers, they're on their own program anyway, they don't, you know what I mean, they don't,
Yeah.
you guys, I mean, honestly, like, nothing we say or do here is going to lead to any kind of real determination.
The kids
so.
don't want to hang out with either one of you, she said,
Right.
the judge. And you know what? I was really surprised by
Right.
the judge. We've heard a lot of bad things about this woman, and I thought she was very
I saw
even-keeled and fair.
I saw some of the things that I had heard about her being an issue. I saw some of those things myself, so I am glad that she's not my judge in my case. But I, you know, at the same time, I mean, she's got what a terrible job
Yes.
to like to help these poor idiots who have already screwed up their marriage, who have already screwed up their kids' lives, try to mitigate the damage for the kids in a situation where one or the other, both parents are being absolutely toxic and awful. It's like, you know, there's no win solution here. It's like all you can do is try to mitigate the damage to a lesser extent than has already occurred, and it's just so I can see how in her role, I mean, it's got to be very frustrating, and you know what I mean.
She just hauls off and calls people. Boom, speakerphone in front of every
Yeah,
single person in the
speakerphone, yeah.
courtroom. The guy didn't show up. Boom, what's his phone number? Called him.
Yeah.
Ring.
Voicemail.
This is Commissioner. Oh, this is
mailbox was
wild.
full, and then she's like, so she asks the ex-wife, you know, oh, can you text him? So the ex-wife's texting him, so then he calls back to the court, and she puts him on speakerphone again, says, hey, you're on speakerphone. You know what? One of the biggest takeaways for me on my own personal case today was every case we saw was less toxic, with the possible exception of the poor woman who, you know, was taking photos and being arrested in the bathroom and that nightmare. But other than, I mean, you know, most of the cases were much less toxic than mine.
I don't know about that. The one man, there's medical records because of the abuse.
Oh,
that
yeah,
happened,
yeah.
like,
Well,
pulled
they
up.
didn't really,
That was scary.
That was scary,
When
yeah.
they said it was the very worst. We don't have any respect for the family court services, the mediator.
Dude, my family court services recommendation was so ridiculously one-sided. It's basically like you go in and you
Where are you
talk to
going?
this mediator. I'm going to the coast.
You're not, but
Yes,
we are actually.
I am.
We're going by Uncle Jay's
I go this way
office.
all the time.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's a slightly less trafficy drive, so I take this route.
This is Uncle Jay's business right up here.
So, yeah, there was that one case that was really horrifying where they're like, there's a criminal stay away order, and there's medical records involved, and yeah, it's like, oh, and then the one of the parents like couldn't move with the kids and the ex-husband across the country because she was on probation or whatever, you know. So I mean, there's a lot of situations.
She couldn't come visit in
Yeah,
Maryland.
she couldn't come
because
visit
of
her kids because of her
would-
probation
yeah.
here. It's like, so there's a lot of situations that maybe would be worse than mine, but what I'm saying is there's clearly, in my situation, a lot of toxicity between the two, between me and my, I mean, there's just no trust at all whatsoever between either one of us. I mean, to the point where, you know, I literally cannot speak to her because of the TRO, so that's kind of, you know what I mean? I don't know.
That's
But-
dicey.
Yeah, it sucks. It just sucks because that means, okay, now you can no longer negotiate on your children's behalf, your own behalf, or even your ex-spouse's behalf without a court, the judge, everybody else there. And that really has cost me a lot of money personally. I mean, thousands
That's
of
the game,
thousands of
Rai Rai.
dollars. Yeah.
That's
But
the game.
but one thing watch one couple, and that was the older couple with the teenagers, right?
Yes.
And then when they left the courtroom, and then we left later too, because you can only take so much. You can only take so much being in there.
Can't really absorb so much of that.
I mean, it was like an hour
And they
and a half.
didn't have attorneys. Those two were there by themselves.
They were there by themselves, and we came out of the courtroom, and I said, hey, you know, you guys are 7 years ahead of me. What kind of advice do you have? And they said right away, they both said, ditch the attorneys. Ditch the attorneys. That was the very first thing they said, because all the attorneys will do is just suck you dry.
Yeah, and they know how much money you have.
Yep.
And then once it's over, the money's over, they're over. And that's happened to so many people I know.
It happened to me. As soon as my money was over, you know, I no longer have an attorney.
The only reason it didn't happen to me, right, is because I had a really nice papa attorney. That's the only reason, because opposing counsel would have gone and gone and gone forever.
I have some things to say there that I'm not sure we want to live stream.
Hey, I'm just saying
about your attorney.
He saw exactly how much was available, and he could have taken it all.
He's not that kind of guy though. Because I met that attorney, and he's just he's a different caliber. I mean, but by and large, most of these divorce attorneys will just suck you dry, and it's very telling too, because all of my
I know, but I thought we were on a different road. That was my favorite.
I used to work over here all the time. All these little places is where I used to do IT down here. So.
Oh, of course.
I mean, some of this. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these attorneys really are just so. I mean, like it was telling to me, like every attorney that I had, like they would give me the consultation, and then like right away they would talk about payment, or even before the consultation they would talk about payment. And then when I finally did hire an attorney that I thought was, you know, reasonably good, I mean, at least he presented himself well and seemed to know the law and stuff. He I was getting, you know, I would send them an email and ask them questions, and before they would respond to my questions or respond to the court procedures, anything, I would get an invoice.
They want your credit card.
Yeah, I would get the invoice first,
yeah.
And then and then if they were like, okay, this credit card is maxed out, are you going to use another credit card? By the way, I maxed out all my credit cards to try and see my kids. So that's my situation, and I'm just, you know, at this point, you know, a lot of people are saying don't post this stuff online, you know, it can be used against you, and it's like I haven't seen my kids in 18 months. I mean, you know, I had the supervised visits that cost like $10,000 or whatever. But other than that, I really haven't seen my kids for 18 months. So it's like, how are they going to use that against me?
That's another thing I saw is that, okay, so one of the things that people will do is get the restraining order and do all of this. But okay, so once they are forced to then have to let you see the kids, they'll say, okay, well, only it has to be supervised. Okay, but the supervision has to be by specific people. And oh, we won't say this. Oh, but no, Hannah's house. Like, who can refute Hannah's house?
Yeah, everybody who has custody of the kids says no to Hannah's house, which is just, you know, to me, a very clear indicator that they're trying to alienate the parent from the children from the other parent.
So, in case people don't have any idea what Hannah's house is a place where the court respects it.
It's a supervised visitation business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a supervised visitation business that's in most of these supervised visitation businesses are just random people who charge to supervise your visitation. This is a different thing. This is like an actual structure, facility where you can go.
It's very well set up. They have a place, because I went and I did the whole turtle tour.
You've
and
been
everything.
there?
Yeah. The very second I realized I was needing supervised visitation, I looked at all of my options and I aggressively pursued all of them. That's what I do. I aggressively pursue all of my options. That's what I do on everything. And I've been doing it this whole time, just trying to get some kind of visitation to my kids. And so I went to Hannah's house right away and I signed up, and there's a sign-up fee. It's like, I don't know, $60 or something. And then they show you the facility. They have a door in the front and they have a door in the back. And what's supposed to happen is the custodial parent comes, the non-custodial parent comes to the door in the back 20 minutes before the custodial parent comes to the door in the front, drops the kids off. So there's no contact between the custodial and non-custodial parent, which is super cool and super great. And Hannah's house is the most inexpensive. You can have a visitation with your kids at Hannah's house for $25, which of course meant that in my situation where the opposing party is obviously just trying to alienate my kids by all means necessary, they refuse to go to Hannah's house because I could afford to go to Hannah's house.
But what I'm saying, Rye, is that what's happened to you,
Yeah.
I'm seeing a pattern in the court that
Yeah.
that is just a thing that
Yeah.
the people who use law enforcement to get the upper hand in the divorce,
Yep.
there's this sort of this textbook strategy that goes on, and I'm seeing it over and over and over again.
Well, and there's YouTube videos showing you how to do it. How to alienate your from seeing their children in order to maximize child support. There's videos about that specifically. And you know, if people like to research this stuff and read the law and they're interested in it already, like my custodial parents, and they literally have done exactly what they're doing to me to my ex-brother-in-law, Matt, who it's just, he's a really, I mean, he's got his problems. Nobody's perfect, but I mean, he's just a really sweet guy who would never harm anybody. And he now has a 3-year restraining order from his own child. And I mean, this is a guy who would never hurt anybody ever. I mean, he's just one of the nicest guys you could ever meet. And sure, I mean, he's not but he would never harm anybody. He certainly never harmed his own child. And yet now he's restrained from seeing his child for 3 years. And now they're going to do the exact same. Done their research. They're obviously highly motivated reason. I'm not even sure. I believe that in my case it's financially motivated because her new husband doesn't make any money. He's like lowest rung in the Navy. But I mean, I have to figure. I mean, I'm just guessing. I really have no idea. I have no contact. There's been a temporary restraining order for 8 months, and that's the other thing too. These court systems are so backed up that everything that's temporary is permanent.
The one woman had a temporary restraining order that was 2 years long.
2 years. She's been temporarily restrained from her own child for 2 years.
The stress that you experience when there's a restraining order against you is...
That doesn't even matter. The stress that your child experiences when you are restrained from seeing your child is, according to the psychologist, it's up to 3 to 10 times the stress you're feeling as a parent.
Everybody gets more stressed out when you involve these unnecessary constraints. And the judge literally said that she was going on vacation, and so she was going to double her, what was the wording? She was going to have the day that she did all the TROs, the restraining orders, she was going to do just double up.
Oh yeah, she's double booking all of her TROs.
Double booking it.
So it's so all of these restraining orders, all of these temporary restraining orders that have to be ruled on by a judge. I mean, literally, you just go in and the judge just looks at the accusations, looks at the defense, and just says, "Oh yeah, I'm going to grant it or not." And it's all hearsay based on he said, she said BS. There's no jury trial. There's no
It's not the criminal court where you have to prove.
Yeah, there's no jury of your peers.
You just say it.
The judge just looks at one, looks at the other, and just
and has to decide.
And just decides, oh, you don't get to see your kids for 3 years, or oh, you're restrained from having any potential to negotiate with your ex for 3 years. Even if you've had no history of any kind of criminal behavior, physical violence, anything whatsoever, they're just going to decide based on a he said she said thing, and it's just absolutely terrifying that so many people can be removed from their children's lives completely based on the judges, just right there. They're just going to make a snap decision in the courtroom. Yeah, well, that picture looked, this comment looked, and then boom, I'm just gonna accept the restraining order. And you have to remember too that the judges have their own personal responsibility and reputation is going to encourage them to opt in a way that's cautious, i.e. they're more likely to grant the restraining order than not, solely based on the fact that they could be potentially held liable in some way if they don't grant the restraining order, and then there's later physical violence. So it's just I mean, if any judge anywhere is going to want to grant the restraining order, so if there's a restraining order already, a temporary restraining order already given, it's just it is really, really terrifying that could become a permanent temporary restraining very quickly and easily with virtually no due process. I mean, we're in the courtroom today, we're watching these trial after trial after trial, and it's the due process is so ridiculous. I mean, there were so many egregious errors. Like you said, the one case wasn't on the calendar at all.
Not even there.
You know, and everybody was there. The lawyers
all
on
of
both
the people
parties,
had the
they're all there.
paperwork
It's
that said,
clear.
and the judge didn't.
Yeah, and the judge was like, "Oh, you're not even on my calendar today." And then, you know, the guy shows up and he's like, "I just want to make sure that I have some kind of visitation of my kids." And they're like looking at completely different documents. He has a completely different document than the judge has.
Yeah.
And then
Like right after another glaring error after glaring error.
you know, I mean, and then, you know, oh, this person didn't get served properly. That person didn't get served properly. This person was served the wrong thing. It's just like error after error after error. I mean, it's just the whole thing is just so suboptimal. It's just, and how is any of this good for the kids? How could any of this be good for anybody's kids? There's got to be a better way. We've got to fix this court system. It is just an absolute nightmare the way it works right now for kids especially, and for estranged parents who in most cases are intentionally being alienated by the other parent. That's just so common. It's crazy how common that is. There must be some reason why that happens so commonly. Why the parents go against the psychologist's recommendation in order to harm the children by also harming the other parent.
It's very simple. It's called personality disorder.
But there's got to be something. I mean, there's got to be some more behind the psychology of when the parent does that to the other parent and the children. I mean, there's got to be a lot more research that's already been done in this arena, and there's got to be a lot more research that could be done in order to alleviate that. Because I mean, all of these parents who are alienated, I mean, I've got to assume that 70% of them, it's just completely unnecessary, right?
You'd think so, yeah.
I mean, you know, there's not, of all the people who get alienated from their children, there's got to be a huge minority that are actually a threat or danger to the children or the other parent, right?
You know what? I know it's hard to say though, because here we were, and like, you know, the one lady, the blonde lady at the end, and she was saying, oh, and this 30-day restraining order is turned into a 2-year thing, and they won't let me see my children. And I was really on her side. And then the dad spoke, and he said, well, she doesn't show up, and
yeah,
and so you just don't really know the whole story. And I have to say that, you know, when I was a little girl, my parents had this long, extended, ridiculous divorce, and different stories.
Isn't it odd? Isn't it odd too that
I'll never know.
That your parents had a long drawn out divorce, and then you had a long drawn out divorce. My parents had a long drawn out divorce. Now I'm having a long drawn out divorce. Isn't it interesting that this is a cycle that seems to be perpetuated by the experience of the children? So now obviously it's more likely than not that both your kids are going to have some kind of long drawn out divorce, and my kids are going to have some kind of long drawn out divorce.
Maybe.
Because of the failure of the parents.
I don't know.
I mean, the statistics, I've read the statistics on it. My argument wouldn't be that it's the
failure of the parents. My argument would be that if yes, I would agree with you, but I don't know that it's the failure of the parents.
Well, that was the second thing that couple said, remember? They said the other thing, besides getting rid of your lawyers because they'll just bleed you dry, the other thing they said was you both need to recognize you've both made mistakes. That's how you've ended up here. You know what I mean? And I certainly recognize the mistakes that I've made. I've made a couple of glaring mistakes. I was kind of bullied by that one judge into removing the status quo order. I should have fought for that status quo order all the way to the grave. And I didn't do that because I had a terrible lawyer, and the judge kind of bullied me into it.
This happens too.
Yeah.
This happens too. I had a great attorney. My divorce ended, but I had a bad attorney at first.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that when I met her, she had green fingernails, and she told me that's because money is green. I have green fingernails because it brings you money. It's the first time I met her, and I thought, oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah. And yet you retained her anyway?
I did because
the first lawyer I retained was the worst lawyer.
I knew I was going to be getting divorced for many, many years.
Yeah.
And I knew I didn't want to have a scary divorce like my parents had. I wanted to have what's called a collaborative divorce.
Yeah.
I always knew I would have a collaborative divorce.
Yeah.
It's what reasonable and rational people have, and you maintain your assets.
Yeah.
There's a psychologist that helps everybody, a financial planner, and there's an attorney. There's a team. You work as a team, and you come to some reasonable solution. So I employed a collaborative attorney who doesn't go to court.
You read my Exhibit A, right?
I read all of it.
Because my Exhibit A is like straight. I don't know if you read all of it, but I mean, there's 130 pages I submitted. She submitted like 300 pages.
Oh, I didn't read any of her stuff, but I read.
Well,
I read all that stuff that you have.
Reading her stuff isn't that informative because it's all lies. It's almost all lies. It's crazy how false. Yeah, it just makes you upset because it's like, well, especially somebody who knows me is like, he's like I'm constantly screaming obscenities in her paperwork, and it's like, dude,
I've never seen you screaming obscenities.
I don't even use obscenities.
Not even one time.
I hardly use obscenities even colloquially. Like
you know what? You're right. You don't really use obscenities.
I find it to be not classy, so therefore I try to avoid it. I have a thing where part of my self-image is I want to appear classy, which is funny because I'm like completely destitute, but I want to appear classy by not swearing. You know,
you can be classy without having a lot of money.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm attempting to do, but it's
successfully, I would say.
Well,
but I would say that people who have these crazy divorces, I didn't have a collaborative divorce because I didn't have a choice in having a collaborative divorce. This is what I opted for. This is what I want. I hired Sean Weber, who is a dolphin, not a shark. He told me, I'm an attorney. I'm a dolphin, not a shark. So if you want a shark, I'm not your guy. I said, no, honey, I want a dolphin. I'm not a shark either. I want to have a nice, mellow, easy divorce. I just want to change my life.
That doesn't always work though when the other party's hiring sharks. So.
No.
Dude, so you
asked my question. The answer is I don't think it is because my parents had a bad divorce, that I had a bad divorce. I think that what I've learned is that my parents each had personality disorders. So I married a person that seemed familiar to me that also had a personality disorder. So I had a hard divorce because I divorced a person with a personality disorder who wanted to win, who wanted me to lose. There was that attitude. That's that black and white thinking that happens. Black and white thinking is a mental problem.
And you know what? I've been trying so hard to like do the gray thinking and try and put myself in the opposing party's shoes, and it's just like I literally can't put myself in her shoes. I would have never chosen a path where my kids would be suffering this kind of misery for 18 months. I never would have chosen that path. No matter what. I mean, like when I had custody of the kids last summer for 6 weeks, I made sure they had a video chat with their mom every single day. Every day. Not like, and not just limited to 20 minutes. It's like, how long you want to talk to your mom? And I was like trying to encourage it. I'm like, listen, you guys can have ice cream, but not till after you have a nice video chat with your mom. Oh, and by the way, I want you to sit there for at least 15 to 20 minutes. At least. I was like trying to incentivize the video chats with the with a non-custodial parent at that point. And it was just, what a nightmare. There was something else I was going to say though a minute ago. And you wanted to finish your answer.
I don't know.
It was important.
I don't know.
It was important and relevant. Now I've forgotten.
You were talking about not swearing, that you weren't.
Oh, yeah, we got off a side topic on that one.
Did you read all of my, and I said, I think I read it all. I don't know, but it was really very alarming to go to the court and have it be so disorganized.
Total S show.
So many people's lives on the line.
A total feces show. I mean, just total disorganization, chaos, misery. Everybody there is like, like you said, me. I need to see my kids. She's not letting me see my kids. He's not letting me see my kids. Me. I've suffered, and it's like almost nobody's thinking about the kids. Almost nobody. None of the parents aren't thinking about the kids. The judge is kind of thinking about the kids. Maybe it seemed like, but she also kind of like seemed like she was thinking about procedure and order and what.
Yeah. She's trying to like move on to the next one.
Yeah, she's trying to get the paperwork from one side of the desk to the other. And that is her job ultimately, and I understand it, but it's like, wow, it's like, to put the kids so secondary to process, procedure, law, your own feelings as a, disgruntled ex-wife or ex-husband or ex-parent,
Yeah.
And then, the one guy was so nice, and then the last thing that he does as we're leaving is hands me the Jesus slip, and it's like, oh yeah, have you thought about putting Jesus in your hands? I'm like, dude, okay, first of all,
all day, every day, honey.
First of all, definitely not for me. And first of all, you haven't been meaningfully involved in your kids' lives for a couple of years, based on what we've heard, right? And now she's got a move away order, and your kids are moving to Colorado without you. Why would I put Jesus first and follow your model? It's clearly not working for you, dude. I mean, he was a really nice guy and I really liked him, and I'm not trying to be mean, But at the same time, it's like, dude, I'm not, you know, I do think that their first two reactions that they both gave together, you know, almost in unison, which what I thought was very interesting and telling, is get rid of lawyers and acknowledge.
See that little place right there?
Yeah, yeah, I've been there before. Not since I used to live here like 10 years ago, but I've been there before. But and then both of them said, you know, you both need to acknowledge you've made mistakes. That's why we're here, and that's interesting, you know. And I keep going back over the playbook and trying to put myself in my ex-wife's shoes, and it's impossible for me because I can't put myself in a pair of shoes where she's causing the kids to suffer so much and looking at a 4-year-old girl in her face and saying, you can't see your dad. That's really, really hard for me to put myself in those shoes. Because I just wasn't like that. You know, yes, I wanted custody of kids. Yes, I wanted the kids to stay in Oregon where there's better fresh food, better fresh water. The mortgage was cheaper. I had all these clients and work and stuff. I mean, I'm really struggling down here still. And I've been here a whole year now. And so, yes, I was opposed to moving to California. Yes, I was opposed to my ex getting custody. I mean, mainly because of the alcoholism and some other things, but you know, I never would have said to Everett or Grace, you know, looked them in their face and said, you can't see your mom. I will not allow you to see your mom. I never would have done that. And I can't, it's really hard for me to fathom that. So.
Well, what I saw today is that it is very, very apparent that it's going on all over town.
Yeah, all over town, clearly. That one dad, the Christian guy, was obviously so alienated and so devastated about it, and had been alienated for so long. I mean, it's clear he's been alienated for years.
I don't know. I feel like he lives, obviously they must have lived here. Why is the court in this? That he must have moved to Orange County.
Yeah, that's true.
So he moved to another county. That speaks a lot of information to the children if you move away.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true too. I moved down here to be closer to my kids, and I've been submitting paperwork to the court time and time again. That's another thing too. The judge was like, "Why didn't you submit this, 2 years ago?" So
he didn't do anything about it.
Yeah,
so he didn't fight that hard. I don't really feel that sorry for him. Yeah. And he can't, he can't keep a job. He can't get a job. I don't know what his problem with the job. She has a job. She's got all the children. She pays for everything for all of the kids, even the 18 and 20-year-olds.
Well, he's been paying $1,900 a month for years. I don't know if you picked that up. And only recently did it lower to $700. So she's about to lose $1,200 a month of income, but other than that, he got screwed across the board.
But she's getting up and going to work every single day for her 12-hour nursing shifts.
That's true.
And she secured herself a job in another place where the life is better and it's less expensive. And I don't know.
That's true, but
I kind of felt like she had done everything she could possibly do. She didn't want to be married to him anymore for some reason.
Well,
there's a reason.
Yeah, probably because he put Jesus first and not her. Women don't want that. They want to be first. They don't have any tolerance for Jesus or the kids or money or anything.
Now you're speaking for yourself, and that's a bullshit thing to say about women.
Hey, no S-bombs.
We're having coffee.
All right. Ciao.
We're at the Panicking now. Bye.